Moonshiners. Mark Ramsey and Digger Mains talk rebuilding after police raid for Mark Ramsey and Digger Mains. The road to recovery is not just about rebuilding a business, but rebuilding a way of life. The duo, known to millions of fans as stars of the hit Discovery Channel show Moonshiners, have faced more than their fair share of challenges in their long-running pursuit of the American spirit, both literally and figuratively. In an exclusive conversation with Moonshiners' lead producers, Mark and Digger shared their story of resilience following a police raid that shook their operation, testing their resolve, and giving them a chance to reimagine what their future holds. Their journey is as much about moonshine as it is about the enduring power of determination, trust, and family. A life in the shadows. Mark Ramsey and Digger Mains are no strangers to the constant balancing act between risk and reward. They spent the better part of their lives making moonshine, an illegal but culturally significant craft that dates back to the Prohibition era. From the days of making moonshine in remote mountain hollows to becoming household names on Moonshiners, their lives have been steeped in tradition, hard work, and secrecy. For decades, moonshine production has been a vital part of Appalachian heritage. But for all its romanticized history in pop culture, the reality of illegal alcohol production is anything but glamorous. It's an operation that involves carefully hidden stills, constant vigilance, and navigating the fine line between keeping a centuries-old tradition alive and avoiding the long arm of the law. For Mark and Digger, the raid was the kind of disruption that threatened not only their livelihood, but their very way of life. The raid, a wake-up call. The police raid that hit their operation was a blow they never saw coming. The operation, which had been quietly running for years, was suddenly exposed, with authorities confiscating their equipment and evidence of their moonshining activities. It was a moment that, for all its chaos and panic, marked a turning point in how they viewed their future. It was surreal, Mark recalls, reflecting on the day the authorities arrived. It's one thing to hear about it happening to others, but when it happens to you, it shakes you to your core. It's like everything you've worked for, everything you've built, could be gone in an instant. The raid left them with more than just a loss of equipment. It threatened to disrupt the tight-knit community they had worked so hard to build. As they looked at the wreckage of their operation, it became clear that they would need to rethink their strategy if they were to continue their work in this business. At the end of the day, you can't let it break you, Digger says, his voice steady despite the gravity of the situation. We knew we had to rebuild, but we also knew we couldn't do it the same way. We had to be smarter, more strategic. We're not just talking about making moonshine here, we're talking about rebuilding our entire operation from the ground up. Rebuilding? A new approach. In the wake of the raid, Mark and Digger were faced with a hard truth. The old ways of doing things were no longer viable. They needed to rethink their entire approach. It was a sobering realization, but it also presented an opportunity to innovate. We've always been about respecting tradition, but at the same time, we've always understood that to survive, you have to adapt, Mark explains. The raid was a wake-up call, and we knew we had to take a step back and really reassess how we were doing things. One of the first steps in the rebuilding process was to streamline their operation. They began by shifting away from the high-risk, high-reward methods they had used in the past. Instead of operating out of the same remote locations, they sought to establish new, more secure sites that were both less likely to attract attention and more conducive to building a long-term business. They also realized the importance of establishing stronger relationships within their community. Over the years, Mark and Digger had built a network of trusted individuals who were integral to their operation, but the raid had highlighted how fragile those connections could be if they weren't carefully maintained. We realized that trust is everything in this business, Diga says. You can't do it alone. Not now. Not after what happened. You need a solid foundation of people who've got your back, and that's something we're working on now more than ever. Reconnecting with the fans while rebuilding their operation was the primary focus for Mark and Diga. They also recognized the importance of their relationship with their fans. Moonshiners has garnered a devoted following over the years, and Mark and Diga have become beloved figures in the world of reality television. The raid and subsequent rebuilding efforts gave them a chance to reflect on the impact they've had on them. The fans have been incredible, Mark says, gratitude evident in his voice. We've gotten so many messages of support from people who've been following us for years. It's not just about the moonshine for them. It's about the story, the culture, the tradition, and that's something we take seriously. Diga adds, when we first started out, we didn't expect it to become such a big deal. But now we see how many people are invested in what we do. And that's something we don't take for granted. As part of their efforts to reconnect with their fans, Mark and Diga have been more open about their personal journeys, including the hardships they faced in rebuilding their operation after the raid. They've used social media and interviews to share their progress and to give fans a window into the realities of their lives off-screen. The road ahead. Looking to the future as they look ahead, Mark and Diga are optimistic but cautious. The world of moonshining, while rich in tradition, is fraught with challenges. There's always the looming risk of legal trouble, the constant threat of competition, and the inevitable ups and downs that come with any business venture. But if the raid taught them anything, it's that resilience and adaptability are key to surviving in an ever-changing world. We've been knocked down, but we're not out, Mark says, a steely resolve in his voice. We've been doing this for a long time, and we've learned that it's not about how hard you fall. It's about how you get back up. For Diga, the future is about finding balance. We're still passionate about what we do, but we're also learning to be smarter about it. We're taking the lessons we've learned from the past and applying them to the future. The duo's vision for the future includes expanding their operation with new products and methods, as well as continuing to educate people about the art of moonshining. While they understand that the business is fraught with risks, they are committed to keeping the tradition alive for future generations. We're not doing this just for us, Mark says. We're doing it for everyone who's ever believed in what we do. We want to pass this on. This is bigger than just making moonshine. It's about preserving a piece of history. Conclusion. A new chapter as the cameras stop rolling and the lights fade on another season of Moonshiners. Mark Ramsey and Diga Mains continue their journey, driven by a shared passion for moonshine, tradition, and community. The police raid was a moment of crisis, but it also served as a catalyst for growth, change, and reinvention. In the world of moonshining, nothing is guaranteed. But for Mark and Diga, one thing is certain. They will continue to press forward, adapting, rebuilding, and preserving the culture that made them who they are. The road's never easy, but it's worth it, Diga reflects. We've always believed in what we're doing, and as long as we have that belief, we'll keep going. For fans of Moonshiners, this is just the beginning of the next chapter in an ongoing story of resilience, tradition, and the spirit of the mountains. Mark and Diga may have faced setbacks, but they've shown that even in the face of adversity, they'll always rise again. Moonshiners. Mark Ramsey and Diga Mains talk rebuilding after police raid in the rugged hills of Appalachia, where the air is thick with the scent of pine and the echoes of old mountain traditions. The practice of moonshining continues to thrive despite its outlaw history. For decades, the art of crafting illegal liquor in homemade stills has been passed down from generation to generation, with many choosing to stay hidden from the law. But in the world of reality television, the lines between outlaw and entertainment have begun to blur, especially with shows like Moonshiners on the Discovery Channel. In this exclusive interview, we sit down with two of the show's most iconic stars, Mark Ramsey and Digger Maines, to discuss their lives after a devastating police raid. These two master distillers, known for their expertise in creating high-quality spirits, have long been familiar faces on Moonshiners. However, they recently found themselves at the center of a controversy that has left their lives, and their distilling operations changed forever. The raid. A turning point. The raid took place in the quiet of the night, a moment that would forever alter the course of Mark and Digger's careers. Mark was asleep when the knock came on the door, and Digger was just finishing a late-night batch of his signature liquor. The police had come with a warrant, and the stakes were high. We had been under surveillance for a while, Mark recalls, his voice heavy with the memory of the chaos. They were watching us, trying to catch us in the act of running our operation, and unfortunately, one night they did. The raid resulted in the confiscation of their stills, equipment, and several gallons of their signature moonshine. It was a